Welcome everybody. Welcome to our BU Virtual Conference 2023. My name is Jerry Sumter. I'm the head of BU Delivery at Beyond Blue and BU, and I'm delighted to have you all join us today. So we're here to talk about our theme for the conference, which is building our capacity to thrive. So we do have some sub-themes through the conference as well. We're going to be talking about educator well-being, resilience, and diversity and inclusion, because all of these together really talk about that capacity to thrive. We've got a very exciting program. We've got 13 sessions over 2 days. We've got 5 of those sessions today. And we've got a new feature for our virtual conference for anyone that's joined us before. We've actually got some virtual consultant booths. So the consultant booths, you'll be able to meet one of our fabulous BU consultants, have a conversation with them, and ask any question that you've got. And our virtual booths will be open after our opening keynote for the rest of the day. The conference is, as usual, led by a range of experts, and I'm going to be delighted soon to introduce you to our first keynote speaker, Dr. Kellyanne Allen. And Dr. Kellyanne is an associate professor at Monash University. As we do get started today, I'd like to acknowledge the lands that I'm joining from and acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Eastern Kulin Nation. I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'd also like to extend these respects to all of the lands that all of you are joining from today, and I'd really welcome you to pop the details of the lands that you're joining from in the chat. I know that it's really exciting as we do these conferences to see where everybody's coming from and think about all of the lands and that connection to country that we have. I'd also like to share something that I've been looking at recently, and that is around the seasons of the First Nations peoples. And with the Eastern Kulin Nation seasons, we're now heading into what we call the Wombat season, and this runs from April to July. And the Wombat season is described as follows, which I just find just really brings a connection to what happens as we change through those seasons. So when morning mists cover the land, nights become longer, and wombats emerge from their burrows, it comes into wearing season. And it's a really beautiful way to sort of think about this. And you can go onto the Bureau of Meteorology's site and have a look at some of the different seasons around the country. I'd also like to share that Beyond Blue acknowledges their intention to contribute to national reconciliation with a reconciliation action plan, and really thinking about that connection to the countries that we are all joining from. I'd now also like to introduce you to someone very special to us here at BU. She is the chair of Beyond Blue and the former Prime Minister of Australia, and that is the Honourable Julia Gillard. And as you'd no doubt realise, Julia has a very busy calendar, and unfortunately she won't be able to join us in person today. But she has recorded a message for us, which is super special, and I'm really happy to be able to present this for you now.
It's wonderful to have the opportunity to talk with you today and to be part of what I'm sure will be another productive virtual conference. Coming together like this to share our experience is such an important way to learn and grow, but it's also a chance to decompress. A lot has been asked of educators these past few years, and you continue to face immense pressure with heavy workloads and increasing complexity of need within your learning communities. Children and young people are growing up in a volatile, challenging world with rising uncertainty and stress. As educators, you absorb a lot of that stress, acting as touch points of stability as your students navigate their way through choppy waters. Your support is critical, not only for their learning and development, but also their mental health and well-being. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for the difference you are making in the lives of many. But I know that your endeavours don't come without cost. It's fitting that this year's conference theme is Building Capacity to Thrive, because now more than ever, we need to build that capacity, not just for children and young people, but for you yourselves. In order for your classrooms to thrive, you must have enough in the tank. You must be able to bring your whole self to work. Prioritising your own needs first may seem counterintuitive when you're juggling competing demands at work and at home, but you cannot thrive if you're running on empty. There is no more important job than looking after your own mental health and well-being. When we're thriving, we go beyond simply existing. The writer Maya Angelou said her mission in life was not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humour, and some style. When we thrive, we build deep reserves of resilience that provide the capacity to grow. While thriving will look different for everyone, what I've learned through my many decades of public life is that holding fast to your own values, your sense of purpose, can help guide you through challenging times. I've also found that having clear boundaries and knowing when to say no can help you recharge and gain perspective. It's important too that you view discipline and resilience not as passive or innate character traits, but as muscles that grow stronger the more you work them. I know I've certainly given mine a fair old workout over the years, and I'm sure you have too, particularly in this post-pandemic era. But thriving isn't just about building individual resilience. It's about creating work cultures that promote well-being, nurture relationships, and embrace diversity, giving you autonomy to thrive in your roles. That's why BU exists, to support every child, young person, educator, and family to achieve their best possible mental health by offering accredited professional learning, resources, online events, and expert BU consultant support. If you haven't already, I encourage you to look at BU's Educator Wellbeing Guide on the BU website, which has a range of helpful information about how you can look after your wellbeing at work. But we also believe systemic changes across the sector are necessary to build educators' capacity to thrive. We're constantly talking with governments about reform to the education system in a number of areas you've told us matter to you. Things like paid time to receive ongoing professional development, increased full-time equivalent allocation to give you enough time and resources to support a whole setting approach to mental health and well-being, and ensuring all pre-service educators receive mental health and well-being education so that they start their careers with knowledge and confidence in this critical area. These measures will all help to build capacity to thrive, creating positive, inclusive, and resilient learning communities. Finally, I want to leave you with what I believe is the secret ingredient for human thriving, and that is purpose. I mentioned it before, but let me stress, when we have purpose and meaning in our lives, we have the potential to flourish. I can think of no greater purpose than moulding this next generation of young learners. You should all be very proud. So thank you all for your hard work. All the best with the conference.
I'm sure you'll agree it's wonderful to have someone of Julia's standing in our community speaking with such insight about the pressures she knows that you as educators are experiencing, and that she sees and appreciates your wellbeing needs as you help support learners' mental health and wellbeing. And I know that I'm grateful to her for giving us such a personal insight into what thriving has looked like in her life. We've had a bit of insight, but it's nice to hear directly from her. Especially her thoughts, I thought, on making sure that we don't run on empty and that our resilience and discipline muscles grow when we give them a workout. But as Julia said, whilst we know self-care is important for thriving, BU is also talking to government about creating the systematic changes you need to build your capacity to thrive. So with Julia, we at BU are advocating for you wherever and wherever we can, sending the message to government that whether you're in pre-service or an experienced educator, you want and need help to support your own mental health and help you to feel confident in your ability to support children and young people's mental health. And while we're on the subject of mental health support, let's consider the potential impact of us on what we're talking about today. So we can recognise that talking about mental health can bring up experiences that can be difficult. And so it's important as we go through the conference to think about any support you may need. It may be just that you need to take a break. It may be that you could reach out to a trusted colleague or a friend for a bit of a debrief or a chat. Or it may be that you could contact one of the support services listed in the chat. But this is a really helpful sort of checklist or reference point for any of those mental health services and support that we encourage you to be aware of, keep your knowledge of, because you never know when you may need to share these with others as well. I want to give you a little bit of information now about BU. So BU is a national mental health and education initiative. It's for educators, and BU is obviously the organiser of this conference. BU is delivered by Beyond Blue on behalf of the Australian government, and it's also delivered with our fantastic delivery partners Headspace and Early Childhood Australia. BU aims to help educators support the mental health and wellbeing of children and young people and their own mental health. And our vision is that every learning community is positive, inclusive and resilient, and a place where every child, young person, educator and family can achieve their best possible mental health. We do have a broad range of offerings, as Julia was starting to outline to you. For educators, we've got our online professional learning, we've got fact sheets, we've got interactive sessions and events where you can get to meet our fabulous consultant workforce, and we've got plenty of other resources there on our website for you. For early learning services and schools, we have tools and processes to help you to implement a whole learning community approach to mental health and wellbeing. And that can be really supported by our BU consultants who you can meet and ask some questions of during those virtual booths that I mentioned today. But they're also there to meet you as a learning community as well and help you to really guide your implementation of all things BU. BU is also completely free. It's available to every educator, every early learning service and every school in Australia. We want to make sure that you do get a chance to ask us our questions during this session as well. So please feel free to pop your questions in the chat. And you'll also find in that space a lot of the links to some of the resources and those tools that I've just mentioned as they get referenced throughout the conference too. So giving you a bit of detail about the conference, as I said, it's all around building capacity to thrive. And we know that learning communities can grow and flourish when resilience is developed, educator wellbeing is prioritised, and diversity is celebrated. So when we're looking at resilience, we're talking about building capacity towards and the resilience and recovery journey of a learning community. For educator wellbeing, we need to prioritise wellbeing to build capacity so that educators can flourish and thrive. And with diversity and inclusion, we need to build that capacity to connect and create inclusive learning communities. So on day one, we're going to be looking at what thriving means to each of us. We're going to be thinking about giving you an overview of each of those sub-themes of the conference. So that's resilience, educator wellbeing and diversity and inclusion, and how these relate to the theme. So this is really scene setting for then what comes tomorrow. And we're also going to be looking today at how personal growth supports mental health and wellbeing and develops adaptability and a growth mindset, and how it helps us to build that ability to build connections across our diverse communities. When we get into day two of the conference tomorrow, we're going to be giving you tools and resources to put this theory into action. We want to make this really practical for you so that you can actually take some steps back with your learning communities. The sessions tomorrow will adopt a more interactive approach with the inclusion of masterclasses and sharing sessions from learning communities who are successfully already implementing BU in their curriculums. We want you to have the opportunity to share and learn from each other as well. We know that we can all benefit from conversations. So we're going to be having some polls throughout the sessions. We do have that chat function where you can share your reflections, your thoughts, your ideas. And we're there to have your questions answered either in the moment through our fabulous behind the scenes workforce, or we can get back to you with some more comprehensive answers to those questions after the conference. We'd also love you to be sharing about the conference across your socials. So please feel free to pop any of your reflections and share those across your social media platforms as well. When you are sharing within our chat functions, please remember to consider the confidentiality, privacy and other self-care as well as your own when you are sharing. And should you need any technical support, our IT support phone number will be available in that chat and can be sought at any stage as well. This conference is being recorded. The benefits of this is so that you can watch it again and again, and you can share this with your colleagues. All of the recordings will be available on our website within around 4 weeks' time. And we really do encourage you to share your learnings and think about any sessions you may want to revisit back in your learning communities as well. You'll be receiving a certificate of participation for joining us today, and this will be emailed to you after the event. And if you're in New South Wales or the ACT, then the conference is a New South Wales Education Standards Authority, so that's NESA, and an ACT Teacher Quality Institute, so TQI. It is an accredited event to those two bodies. More information can be found on our conference webpage around what that accreditation looks like and means for you. As we head into the conference now, we're just going to take a quick stretch break while we reset for our keynote speaker, Kellyanne Allen. So please don't go anywhere, but take that opportunity for your first stretch of the day.